wine before. But when Godhood insisted, he took the wine, and the first toast he had began with high hopes but ended in the realization that wine tastes very bad. Godhood asked him why he's being a robber, as with the skill set that he has, he could be easily accepted for any type of reputed work. Godhood told him that 9 years ago, he was also a high-spirited boy like him. He was known as the genius of the Godhood kingdom. He reached the rank of Sky Knight. It was the highest post any member of his family had ever achieved. He joined the military and was promoted to be a member of the Royal Regiment of the Godhood Kingdom. Soon he was promoted again to be the captain of one of the 3 great Earth Dragon battalions. Godhood confirmed a rumor that he had heard that if an Earth Dragon recognizes a person as his master, he follows them for his whole life. Godhood positively replied, saying that this is true. He also had an Earth Dragon, one of the strongest ones in the whole royal military. It was his own pride until Godhood's Earth Dragon, Xiao Zhan, sacrificed himself while protecting him. It was due to a mistake made by him that cost Xiao Zhan his life. This burden had never been lifted from his heart. Godhood tried to comfort him with some practical words that Godhood took personally. He said that he knows it was an accident, and remembering it again and again will not do any good for them. At this moment, if Xiao Zhan were watching him, he would have asked him to cheer up and let the past go. These words helped him, as Godhood saw a bit of relief during their further conversations. Godhood had already believed that he was the one responsible for Xiao Zhan's death, and because of that, he never let himself get up in his own life. There is despair, it gets piled up. Along with Godhood himself, everyone around him started blaming him for the murder of Xiao Zhan. After that incident, he was removed from the position of battalion captain, and because of the judgmental stares of the people around him, he was not able to handle himself and left the army. He ran away from everyone around him, from his friends, from his family, from everyone he knew and loved, until he reached this village where no one knew him. The villagers were active thieves, and to live with them, he also became a thief himself and soon became the leader of the major bandit group in this village. Now that both of them were drunk, Godhood suggested Godhood become his god brother, the type of sibling one always wanted but never got. Godhood accepted his offer and became God's god brother. They kept drinking until they both passed away. The next day, Godhood woke up with a heavy headache. Godhood brought him some food. He asked him why he had a headache. He told him that it was because of the large amount of wine that he had. Also, it was his first time, which is why something like that was natural. Since he, Godhood, had been drinking like this for a long time, it didn't affect him. Godhood remembered what Godhood said last night about becoming god brothers and accepted it. Godhood said that he'd be honored to have a brother like him. Now that both of them have agreed, they have officially become each other's god brothers. Now that both Godhood and Godhood are brothers for their lives, they decided to help each other. Godhood asked him about the fighting spirit that he used in his battles, as it was on par with the powers of a magic user. Godhood told him that he uses the dragon accession technique. His father is the brother of the current emperor of the Godhood kingdom. He's the Grand Marshal of the Kingdom of Qi Lu Xuda's military forces. His real name was Jing Yun Xuda. Godhood was pleased to know that his brother was a member of the royal family. He asked Godhood if he wanted to learn his fighting technique, as he was inquiring about his fighting spirit. Godhood said that he wanted to learn some offensive martial arts as his magic is mostly defense-based. A couple of offensive tricks would help him a lot in achieving his goal faster. But now that he knows that Godhood belongs to the royal family, he doesn't want to trouble him. But on the other hand, Godhood was eager to teach him about his technique, as his reasoning for learning it was on point. He started his lesson by teaching him that the dragon accession technique is divided into 9 parts, which can also be called the levels of mastery one had in this technique. They were Foundation, Entry, Rough, Basic Clear, Outstanding, Internalization, Peak, Peerless, Wild. It starts getting difficult at the 4th level. Until then, everything is easy for beginners. He's currently at the internalization level. These levels of fighting spirits and magical training are pretty similar, as they're both about leveling up their skills. With that being said, Godhood started Zhong's training to improve his fighting spirit in the dragon accession technique. He was a very strict teacher. He scolds Zhong every time he runs away from the training or lazes around. He himself supervises his physical training, which mostly includes running and strength-building exercises. He did not let him use his magic for any of these tasks so that he could sincerely focus on improving his physical strength. In the afternoon, they mostly practice meditation, and at night, he practices his magic training to not let it rust away. One day, when Zhang was practicing with a sword, he got the idea of transferring his magic into the tip of the sword, and when he did that, he was able to cut open a rock without even letting the sword touch the rock. Zhang had learned a valuable lesson. Magic power can greatly strengthen a person's fighting spirit. If one is able to fuse and successfully and use their synergy, he could become a lot stronger than he could even be by practicing these techniques separately. Now that he had learned a new thing, Zhang went straight to his brother, Godhood, to tell him about it. Godhood was shocked to see this drastic increment in Zhang's strength. He wished that he would have known about this sooner, but now that he knows it, he requests Zhang to teach him about magic right now. They were on their way to ignite the flames of magic in Godhood's mind. For that, Zhang told him that he'd later teach him to feel the light elements around him. But before that, he asked Godhood to gather spiritual power to attract the light elements and make them accept him. Zhang warned him that there will only be one chance for him to do that, so he needs to be very careful. Zhang used his magic aura to guide the flow of light elements into Godhood's upper dantian. Zhang told him that light elements are the necessary elements from which the growth of all the organisms in this world occurs. It's a peaceful magic that is like a parent to them. He asked Godhood to let them flow through his heart and let them accept him as another disciple of light magic. Everything was going according to what Zhang had expected until the light elements started gathering around him. His upper dantian started emitting bright, warm light. He was feeling a strong power coming out of the golden orb that he had within himself. This orb, which was half transparent before, started to lose its opacity, and its transparency started increasing. He remembered the time when Master Day had said that he'd reach the complete transparent stage of his golden orb in the next 4 to 5 years. Zhang was proud of himself that he was now the one who was about to become the 11th scholar of the continent. Zhang opened his eyes and saw Godhood looking at him with confused eyes. He asked him what had happened with him, as just now he saw his body shining with a dazzling bright light. Zhang told him that he had succeeded in what he was doing for a very long time. The golden orb, which is the source of his magic, had reached its full potential. He himself didn't know how it happened. But while he was telling him about the light elements baptized his body, and now he had reached the level of a magic scholar. Godhood became very happy to know that. He decided to celebrate with drinks. And with that, on a whim, 2 months had passed. Zhang had mastered the dragon accession technique to the rough stage, and now his battle aura had also grown very strong, which is now backing up his magical power in offensive terms. Godhood had also made huge improvements in his magic training, and now he had a new ambition in his heart, to become Light Knight. Now that things are mostly settled, it's time for Zhang to leave this place as he has his quest to complete. He does not want to leave this place, but Godhood has made a promise to him that he'll join him on his quest to the Dalu province to find the sacred sword of the creator gods once he returns from the Judah kingdom. Godhood asked Zhang to check on his family to see if they were doing well. Zhang asked him to come with him and check that himself, but Godhood refused, saying that he would not understand this now. He said that he'll need to wait until they retrieve that sword, and after that, they'll discuss that matter. He wished him luck, and finally Zhang parted ways with his god brother. Godhood wished for his brother to become the best mage, while Zhang wished that he'd return as soon as possible to his big brother. Zhang had finally reached the Judah kingdom. On the mainland, he arrived at the capital of this country, Judah City. This country was completely different from Axia, the place from which Zhang had come. The buildings, monuments, and infrastructure, along with the dressing of its population, reflect its culture. From far away, one could easily tell how much the people here respect martial arts. When he entered the Judah kingdom, Zhang changed his dress to that of a mainland knight, and because of that he was able to enter the capital without any trouble. The commoners were charmed by his uniform, but Zhang was charmed by the Earth Dragon Battalion, which was patrolling the area. When a citizen saw Zhang looking at the Earth Dragons with his eyes wide open, he asked him if he was a native or not. Zhang told the truth, also telling him that he was here to join the Royal Knights Academy. Zhang reached the Royal Knights Academy, where, at the entrance, he met an officer who helped him. Zhang told him that he had come from the Axa Kingdom and was sent by the Dean, Lo Lun Dai. He had ordered him to meet the Dean, Li Qi Wen, of this academy. Zhang was charmed by the beautiful atmosphere of the academy, with various monuments and huge buildings for various subjects to study. When they were crossing the cabin area, they heard loud yelling. It was the Dean, teaching one of his disciples in a very strict manner. Zhang asked the officer about it, and he said the same. They wanted to go in, and for that they sought permission. They were rejected, but when the officer told the dean about Zhang, the student from the Royal Intermediate Magic Academy, he allowed them to enter. As they entered the premises, Zhang was surprised to see the dean, who was training with another student. Zhang greeted the dean and introduced himself. The dean asked him if he was really a disciple of Lao Lun. He jokingly made fun of Master Di's light magic and offered Zhang to permanently become his disciple. Zhang was angry to see someone insulting his master and his magic, but he controlled himself and said that both skills are important in their own right and have their own advantages. Zhang wrote a letter to the dean. It was written by Master Dai. The dean took the letter and read it. He was a bit flattered by all the good points Master Dai had made about Zhang in the letter. He was also called Magic Genius, but the dean told him that he's unable to see the genius part of him right now. His disciple asked him not to trouble the kid as he had just arrived here. He asked him to let him rest for a bit, and then they'd start with the training. The dean agreed to his point and introduced his disciple Dong Reihu to Zhang. Reihu was a half-elf, and the dean praised him for his keen and honest behavior. Reihu was greater than Zhang, and Zhang praised him for his looks. It was something that no one had ever said to him. He was never complimented in such a way as this. He thanked Zhang, but Zhang was very hungry as he had walked all the way here without having a meal. The dean saw his condition and took him to the dean's canteen. The dean asked Zhang to eat to his heart's content. First he hesitated, but then he showed his true side and started eating. The dean was a bit surprised to see him eating like that, as he had never expected Zhang to be a glutton like that. The dean said that it was like Master Dai had kept him starving all this time. Reihu told the dean to eat fast or the food would end, and the dean said the same as Zhang was eating too fast. Later, when everyone had their meal, the dean told Zhang that he'd be living with Reihu as Master Dai had asked him to train him for the next 6 months. He said that it's only a matter of persistence if he can keep up with them. Realizing that it was an order given by Master Dai, Zhang assured the dean that he'd persist under him and make full use of the training that he would impart to him. As they were having conversations, Zhang came to know that the dean, Master Wen, is a light knight, while Don Rai Hui is a half-elf and a developing earth knight. He had pointy, long ears, which are proof of him being an elf. Master Wen told Zhang about the archery skills that Don Rai had obtained from his ancestors. They were much better than a full-fledged light knight like him. Zhang suggested that Don Rai learn magic so that he can use his archery skills in sync with magic arrows. Don Rai didn't say anything and remained silent with his head bent down. Zhang asked him if he had said anything bad or offended him in any manner. Master Wen told him that what he said was right and that it was the same thing that he wanted Don Rai to do, and for that he was about to send him to Master Dai. But since now he, Zhang, is here, there's no need for that. He asked both the kids to learn from each other, and in exchange for that, he would teach martial arts to Zhang. Zhang was happy to get the opportunity to not only learn from, but also teach Dong Rai about magic. The next day, Zhang's physical training was started, which included push-ups, sit-ups, and 5-kilometer runs. Even though this training was unimaginable for him, Zhang was able to keep up with it as he had already trained with his brother, Zhan Hu. That training with him is now giving results, but Master Wen was not satisfied with Zhang's progress. His teaching methods were a lot stricter than Zhan Hu's. After his physical training sessions with Dong Rai and Master Wen, Zhang started teaching Dong Rai about light magic, the same as he had taught Zhan Hu about it. But the catch was that Dong Rai started learning the basics at a very fast pace. Zhang was also surprised to see him learning all these basics at the pace at which he was. Dong Rai then showed him the archery skills that were passed on to him by his ancestors. He was able to shoot the left wing of an insect with pinpoint accuracy, sitting 800 meters away from them, without using any kind of external skill or power, but only his keen eyes. Evening was their best time, as they were able to chill and relax without being burdened by any type of training. With a similar schedule, 1 month had passed. One day, while Zhang and Don Ri were walking by in the evening, a beautiful girl with blue hair came to Don Rai. Seeing that girl, Zhang asked Don Rai if she was his girlfriend or something, but he denied it, saying that she was just a friend of his. The girl came to him and greeted him. He too greeted her with the name Ms. Hua Lun, but she reminded him that she had told him not to use that name and to call her Hong Sui alone. She asked him if he'd been eating properly or if the master was being too harsh on him, as he seemed thinner than before. Zhang was a bit confused to see her concern about Don Rai and him not even accepting her as his girlfriend. She then asked about Zhang. It was pretty late for her to ask about that. Zhang was feeling depressed as he felt insignificant in the situation. He compared himself to air while introducing himself to Ms. Hua Lun. Realizing the depth of the situation, Zhang decided to leave the scene. He made up an excuse and went ahead. Don Ray asked him where he was going, but Zhang silently told him that he was giving him a chance. Hua Lun told Don Ray that Zhang was a lot more sensible than she had expected. But Don Ray didn't want any of this to happen. While strolling around the town, Zhang saw many people gathering at some place. He went there to see what was happening. There he came to know about the National Martial Arts Competition, which was being organized next month. There were no limitations for participants to join the competition, and even the use of magic was allowed. The top 10 contestants will be able to join the Earth Dragon Battalion directly. Zhang was not interested in that competition as he already has Qiu Jin, a 5-talon golden dragon, so there's nothing good in having a pseudo-Earth dragon. But then he decided to think about it if Don Rai decides to participate. Back at the academy, Master Wen asked Zhang about Don Rai. He told him the truth and told him that he was with Hua Lun. Master Wen remembered her. Zhang asked him if he knew anything about her, and he told him that she was the niece of the current emperor and the daughter of the queen's sister. They had met because of him. Once Master Wen had taken him to the royal banquet, they both met for the first time. From that time on, she clings to Don Rai. Afraid of the adverse effects of this friendship, Master Wen ordered Don Rai to avoid her and to focus on his studies. Zhang wondered about the concept of love at first sight that had happened with these two, but Master Wen did not accept this, saying that this is not their age to fall in love but to focus on their studies and to achieve their goals of becoming stronger. Zhang opposed him and said that he had no right to take away someone's freedom to love, and with that, their argument soon turned into a battle of power where Master Wen had the upper hand on Zhang. Just then, Don Ray came back and, without paying any attention to them, went into his room. He seemed depressed. As he was going, Master Wen scolded him to first master the martial arts and then find love. Don Ray said that he had no right to be in love with her and went into his room. Master Wen asked Zhang about him, as he had never given him an answer on the face. Zhang said that he'd look into the situation. At night, Zhang went to the roof, where Don Ray was sitting alone, looking up at the moon. Zhang asked him what had happened with her, but before telling her, Don Ray apologized to Zhang and Master Wen for his rude behavior earlier. Don Rai told him about the situation as Zhang left. He and Hong Su went for a walk, where they bumped into some students from the noble families. They started bullying Don Rai by calling him a lower status being. They told Hong Su to get away from him, saying that he's a bastard child, which is not even human. They were making fun of him, and both Don Ri and Hong Su didn't like it. Don Rai was not able to tolerate the insults that the noble kids were imposing on him and on his parents. He lost his temper and hit the leader with a hard punch to the face. But now he's regretting the decision that he made, as he didn't want to trouble Master Wen because of his decisions. Master Wen was hiding behind them. Tears were flowing from his eyes as he knew that a child like Don Ri could never hit anyone without any solid reason. On the other hand, Zhang called him selfish for fighting alone and asked him to bring him next time. He also told him not to underestimate his strength as he showed him a pure energy attack, telling him that he's already at the level of a magic sage. Master Wen saw that energy ball and recognized it as the strongest 8th level magic one could do, and that proved that Zhang is a magic scholar. Don Ray also admired Zhang's strength and promised him that their social inferiority would never back them ever again as they'd carve their own future. The next day, Master Wen spared their training and let them enjoy the day, but their enjoyment soon got disrupted by a fierce knock on the door. It was the doorman looking for the dean. Don Rai told him that Master Wen had gone to the academy. The doorman told him that Bai Qi Ningong, along with some other nobles, was looking for the dean. There were almost 100 people with angry looks on their faces. Both Zhang and Don Ri knew that their enemies had arrived. A huge commotion had occurred at the front gates. Zhang and Don Ri were surprised to see such a huge crowd, which they hadn't expected. The students around the gates knew that someone had offended Duke Filch Nam. Don Ray noticed the kid he had beaten last night and told Zhang about him, but Zhang went ahead to meet them. Near the crowd, Zhang asked the people about the situation. The Duke answered him directly and told him that he had to meet his principals. Zhang told him that he's a student of the academy, which has its entrance blocked by the people brought by the Duke. With a bitter expression on his face, he politely asked the Duke to wait patiently on the side while the master arrived. The Duke didn't listen to his reasoning and said that he wasn't worthy to speak with him as he's a commoner. Zhang was infuriated